The headline on a print ad for DuPont said, "You see so many good things in DuPont cellophane." The visual actually showed 3 babies wrapped in cellophane. I kid you not. Another ad for Black Flag insecticide shows a baby with the headline, "No flies on me, thanks to DDT." The ad says Black Flag with DDT is, quote, "long preferred by housewives everywhere." Another ad for a similar product came from a company called Penn Salt Chemicals in 1947. It showed an illustration of a dog, a cow, an apple, and a woman all happily singing, "DDT is good for me." The print ad proclaims that the great expectations for DDT have been realized. The ad recommends DDT be used for orchards, crops, cattle, and the ad includes a small image of a mother holding a baby saying DDT helps make healthier, more comfortable homes. Then there's this product. It launched on television in 1984. It's for a device that debones fish. It feels like a Saturday Night Live parody ad, but it's real. Voiceover by celebrity Mike Rowe. The commercial begins with 3 guys on a fishing trip, and it's time to clean the fish.
Okay. Who wants to clean and debone them?
I'll do it. What gives? You want to do it? Just wait till you see what I've got.
It's the Wonder Boner.
The Wonder Boner? Oh, you laugh now. Just watch.
Then he demonstrates how the Wonder Boner works, quickly deboning fish in seconds.
Why go through the hassle of deboning a fish the old-fashioned way when the Wonder Boner makes deboning fish this easy?
Every tackle box and every kitchen should have the Wonder Boner. Call 1-800-310-3039 and order your Wonder Boner for only $19.95. 1-800-310-3039. Call now.
Get your wallets out. Then get your gongs out. Believe it or not, all these ads were deemed acceptable when they first appeared. There was no discernible pushback, no demands to yank them off the air. None were banned. It was a different time. Marshall McLuhan once said that advertisements were the cave art of the 20th century. That is true. Look at the ads from any decade, and you instantly get a sense of what was politically correct, what the current lingo was, what the latest fashions and most popular products were, and a sense of the prevailing attitudes. The 50s seemed to be the most offensive decade in hindsight. The most sexist advertising, doctors endorsing cigarettes, babies in DDT ads. Then again, the 80s had the Wonder Boner. Not every ad category has improved with time, but thankfully, a lot have. To quote another campaign from the past, "We've come a long way, baby," when you're under the influence. I'm Terry O'Reilly. This episode was recorded in the Terrestream Airstream mobile recording studio. Producer, Debbie O'Reilly. Sound engineer, Jeff Devine. Under the Influence theme by Ari Posner and Ian Lefevre. Tunes provided by APM Music. Follow me on social at Terry O Influence. And if you'd like to read next week's fun fact, just go to apostrophepodcasts.ca and follow the prompts. See you next week.
Hi, this is Jen Sutton from Ottawa, Ontario.
Fun fact.
Fred and Wilma Flintstone were the first animated married couple to share a bed together.
990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg. Massey Hall, the most iconic music venue in Canada. An absolute milestone in the careers of musicians who stand on the historic stage. And you have a front row seat. The Beaches, Charlotte Cardin, William Prince, Jeremy Dutcher, July Talk, and more. CBC Music Live at Massey Hall, now available on CBC Jam.
Thank you, Toronto!
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere. Download the CBC Listen app for free and fall in love.
This is CBC News. At 12 o'clock, we're at 11 degrees with rainy skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. The Winnipeg Jets are trying to figure out what went wrong after they were booted from the Stanley Cup playoffs in 5 games. The Jets beat the Colorado Avalanche in Game 1, but were defeated in the next 4. Goalie Connor Hellebuck says he feels he played his best hockey and is devastated.
I don't know if I even saw half of the pucks go in the net. They did a great job, but for me to not be able to put my foot down on a single game is really heartbreaking because it's not typically how I do things.
Hellebuck says the team didn't do enough to adjust its game against Colorado. Captain Adam Lowry says the penalties they took also put the team behind. Lowry says they need to do a better job keeping their emotions in check. A mother in Shiloh, struggling to find support for her neurodiverse children, is petitioning the province for change. Ali Pumala moved from Ontario with her 3 children, who are all on the autism spectrum. She says it's been challenging to find childcare for her 3-year-old son, Carson, who's nonverbal and has global development delay.
I realize that Manitoba is one of the few provinces that don't actually have any legislation in regards to early childhood education and children with disabilities. And I was honestly a little shocked about that to find out that there was no actual legislation.
Pumala has created what she calls Carson's Bill, which would ensure all early education institutions have clear guidelines on how to accommodate children like Carson who require additional support. The province says Children's Disability Services uses a family-centered approach to evaluate respite care needs. The Manitoba government says it's happy to continue working with First Nations and municipalities to keep Lake Winnipeg healthy. Yesterday, 8 First Nation communities along the lake's shores said they're suing the city of Winnipeg, the province, and the federal government for damage caused by sewage spills. The lawsuit seeks $4 billion. The First Nations say the city's been dumping raw sewage in the Red River for decades, which then floats up to Lake Winnipeg. The latest spill was more than 200 million liters. That was in February. Tracy Schmidt is Manitoba's Environment and Climate Change Minister.
We're very proud of our $10 million funding announcement that we made shortly after the most recent spill in February to help the city of Winnipeg improve their wastewater infrastructure. And we'll also soon be introducing a legislation to strengthen the Environment Act to be able to better respond to these sort of situations.
The chief of Broken Head Ojibwe Nation says the sewage has harmed their fisheries. U.S. President Joe Biden says the pro-Palestinian protests gripping campuses across America have not changed his stance on Israel. In a televised address yesterday, Biden said Americans have a right to protest, but not a right to cause chaos. He also denounced the violence at some universities. Paul Hunter has your details.
Even as police in Los Angeles moved in on pro-Palestinian demonstrators at the UCLA campus, this morning in New York, outside Columbia University, where such demonstrations began last month and where police had forcibly cleared protesters 2 nights ago, all was calm. Demonstrators here have made clear they will return, but so far it's been in smaller numbers outside campus gates and only briefly. Their message is that the university distanced itself from Israel in its war with Hamas in Gaza. That's now broadened with anger at authorities for pushing back at their protest. Even as others have underlined, the schools must be allowed to conduct their classes safely, said U.S. President Joe Biden.
Dissent is essential to democracy, but dissent must never lead to disorder.
Leaving the question at campuses across the U.S., where does all of this go from here? Paul Hunter, CBC News, outside Columbia University in New York.
Meanwhile, at Canada's largest university, a similar scene is emerging. Tempers flare when an Israeli supporter confronts pro-Palestinian demonstrators at the University of Toronto. The situation quickly calmed, but an encampment that emerged overnight on campus remains. U of T officials say students involved in the protests could face punishment. There are encampments at a handful of other Canadian schools, including UBC and the University of Ottawa. Donald Trump is facing the prospect of additional sanctions in his criminal hush money trial in New York. Another contempt hearing has been scheduled. Over 4 comments Trump has made in recent days. Prosecutors say they violate the judge's gag order. That order bars Trump from commenting on anyone or anything connected to the case. Earlier this week, Trump was fined for 9 violations of that gag order, and the judge claimed he would jail the former president if the violations continued. And this just in, we're following breaking news this hour. The Osborne Village Starbucks in Winnipeg is going to be temporarily closed while staff assess safety concerns. The closure starts on Sunday. A spokesperson for the coffee chain says they're reviewing their partner and customer experience after safety concerns were raised at the location. In Winnipeg, a high of 9 degrees today with rainy skies. In Brandon, rainy, and a high of 9 as well. Dauphin, cloudy and rainy, a high around 11 degrees. Flin Flon, rainy, with a high of plus 5 degrees. Thompson, you're seeing light snow at times today, and a high around plus 5 degrees. And in Churchill, a high of 0 with periods of snow. Right now, you are listening to CBC Radio 1.
Hello, my friends. Thanks for joining us here for Radio Noon on this lovely Thursday. Today, we're going to talk about dental care. It's something many Manitobans do without because they can't afford it. The new federal dental plan is supposed to fill that gap. But will it? Many dentists have questions about the plan. What questions do you have? Call in after 12:30 and get answers from someone who's been studying it. Where can people experiencing homelessness in Steinbach find something to eat when the Community Outreach Center is closed? We'll tell you about a new grab-and-go service set up on one woman's lawn. But Radio Noon begins today with a promise from the provincial government to tackle crime in rural communities. Premier Wankanu and Justice Minister Matt Wiebe are in Swan River today. Just last hour, the Premier stood out in front of the town's civic offices on the front lawn there and talked about fighting crime in rural communities.
The past few years in particular, hearing about businesses locking their doors, to hearing about the frustration with a revolving door, about issues with safety in the community, about just the average person wondering about what the future is going to be like in a community like this one, it's really hit home. And so we're here to tell you that we're taking action. And so we've got a 5-point plan on bail reform, and we're here to share the details of that with the people here in the Swan Valley region. So the 5 points of the plan, the 5 points of this plan are comprehensive in nature, and they have to do with building not only a direct response to the issues that you're seeing in the community, but also setting the stage for a longer-term approach that is going to make a difference. And in short, we got these 2 twin paths we're walking at the same time: tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime. And that's the approach that we're taking here. So the first point that I want to talk about, and I'll spend a bit of time on this, is we have provided direction to Crown attorneys that when they are going to court and somebody's applying for bail, the Crown attorney has to consider the impact on community safety of the person before the courts. And in particular, the Crown has to take into account what folks in the community, local leaders, business folks are saying about what's happening with public safety in the community. Often there's a perception that bail is focused on the person applying for bail. And it was really shocking for us to hear that for years there has never been direction to Crown attorneys in Manitoba about the way that they're supposed to participate in a bail hearing. And so our government, under the leadership of our Attorney General, Matt Wiebe, who's here with us today, is now providing this direction. And the direction is clear. Before somebody can go for bail, the Crown has to bring forward a clear picture of what the impact is going to be on the safety of a community like Swan River. This will make a difference in Swan. This will make a difference in many other rural centers across our great province. Second point of the plan is more resources for supervision. These resources will live at the provincial level and allow us to monitor those folks who are on bail. Third point is increased resources for law enforcement. We thank law enforcement and we recognize the important work that they do to keep us safe each and every day. The fourth point of the plan is to invest in data sharing across jurisdictions. We've heard from many, many folks, including the National Police Federation, who represents RCMP officers across the country, that too often issues around safety in the community are falling through the cracks because somebody moves from one region to another, and then when they go from the jurisdiction of one police force to another, sometimes the follow-up is not taking place. So we're bringing forward the resources to address that situation. And of course, we know that sort of collaboration amongst law enforcement has worked really well in the areas where that it's been brought forward. And so we're bringing in the resources to ensure that can happen when it comes to bail and community safety and supervision as well. And then the final point of this 5-point plan is to bring forward your voices. It's to bring forward the voices of community and to design the approach that we're going to use going forward. We're going to have the tough on crime approach that sees us investing in law enforcement and supervision in the community. But we also know that if we want to prevent issues in the future, we need to get a handle on addictions, mental health. We need a path towards employment. We also need to invest for the next generation in recreation, education, and ensure that there's a path towards post-secondary instead of a pipeline towards prison for that average young person who's maybe got some negative influences in their life, but if we do the right thing with them, we could steer them towards a positive path that'll see them join the workforce. And so we held the first part of that outreach exercise in Winnipeg earlier this week. We held a public safety summit, and I'm happy to say that folks from Swan were in attendance, we're participating, and we really appreciate you making the drive. It was a really good meeting this past Tuesday. We had business, we had elected representatives from municipalities, from First Nations, we had community serving organizations, we had law enforcement, everybody in the room working together to develop a comprehensive plan that the Attorney General is going to share publicly later this week. But I also know that doing one meeting in Winnipeg is not good enough to meet the needs of the people of Manitoba. And so we're going to do subsequent versions of this Public Safety Summit in different regions around the province, including in northern Manitoba, including in Westman, and importantly, through a partnership with the Association of Manitoba Municipalities, AMM, we're going to be bringing one of these Public Safety Summit meetings right here to Swan River. And so we're very happy that AMM, and you know Mayor Jacobson is a very active participant in that. AMM has invited us through their regional district meetings this summer to come out and engage on the public safety topic with people in every region of the province. And so I'm happy to be here today. But I'm also happy to say that our government will be back. And so we'll be back with the AMM, and we'll be back to have a meeting on the topic of public safety to hear your perspectives. So we're bringing forward this 5-point plan. We've got the aspects of law enforcement, the Crown attorneys, the supervision, the data sharing. But the 5th point to me is the one that's going to be really focused on the long term and bending that curve towards the good. And that's where we're asking for your involvement and your help. Help us to design what the strategy needs to be around law enforcement and justice, recreation, education, and prevention here in the community.
That's Premier Wab Kinew speaking about an hour ago, announcing a 5-point plan to strengthen bail policies and enforcement in Manitoba. He and Justice Minister Matt Wiebe made the announcement in Swan River. Lance Jacobson is Swan River's mayor and also a director of the Association of Manitoba Municipalities. He was at today's announcement, but I spoke to him beforehand and asked why crime is a concern in Swan River and the Parklands.
Well, I think that crime is a concern everywhere, but in particular for us living here, the number of, if it's if you can call it organized break-in and private properties in the rural areas. Maybe some a little bit in town too, but not as much as in the rural areas. But the other is the drug production and trafficking, and this is a major issue for us. And why is that important, or why is that an issue for us? Is because it's getting into the hands of young people. It's destroying young people's lives, and even adult and older adults' lives as well. And we have to come up with strategies in this province to deal with this problem, and it's a big problem. And we are trying to tackle it the best we possibly can.
Do you believe bail reform is important?
Oh, absolutely. This has been something that municipalities have been, lobbying, the province and the federal government for some time now. And you hear the words, revolving doors and all that, and it's still continuing on. You have individuals that are, dangerous offenders or repeat offenders, and they go in on an item that they've been charged for or caught on, and they're released within maybe a few hours. And sometimes these people are committing the same or similar crime later that day and is arrested again. So having these individuals out in our communities, wherever it is, in Swan River, Winnipeg, or in Dauphin, is a big problem for our communities. And the goals, I think, is for us to always have safer communities. And what we have right now is just not working.
Lance Jacobson is Swan River's mayor and also a director of the Association of Manitoba Municipalities. The province hosted a public safety summit earlier this week. It says feedback from that summit will inform creation of a province-wide strategy to reduce crime and make communities safer.
Your local news at your fingertips.
CBC News has a local news app made for your phone or tablet.
So don't waste time scrolling for the local stories you want. Just download the app to get the information that matters to you when it happens.
And how you want it.
Another way to get your local news. The CBC News app. Download it today.
It's 12:17 and you're listening to Radio Noon. Today, in the second half of our program, our call-in conversation is about the new Canadian dental care plan. It's now in effect, but most dentists are not participating. They have concerns and questions. Their patients have concerns and questions. What about you? What questions do you have? Call in after 12:30 and we will get you some answers. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we're going to meet the needs of people in need right where they are, or at least tell you the story about a woman who's doing just that. Coming up on Radio Noon, the story of Steinbach's brand new giving fence. Giving fence. It's a lovely idea, and it all started at a yard sale. I'm just flipping through to see what's happening in Steinbach right now. Is it raining in Steinbach? Environment Canada's not really telling me, but it is raining in a lot of places right now. It's also snowing up north. You'll get 1 to 3 centimeters of snow today. In Thompson, those periods of snow will change to a chance of rain for tomorrow. Your Saturday looks like it's going to be mainly cloudy with a chance of rain or snow. Sunday looks like it'll have some sunshine. Light rain in Brandon today, a mix of sun and cloud on your Saturday, sunshine on your Sunday. In Winnipeg as well, rain today, rain tapering tomorrow to some showers, leaving us with a mix of sun and clouds for Saturday and a mainly sunny Sunday. Riley Lachuk will be back with us at 12:30 to give you more details on your provincial forecast. If you saw an old cattle fence at a yard sale, would you say to yourself, that is just what I need? Well, Lillis Penner saw the potential. She knew that with a new paint job, that wide ladder of metal tubing could help her make other people's lives easier. So she stuck that chunk of fencing into the lawn of her home in Steinbach and turned it into a giving fence. Lillis Penner joins us now by Zoom. Hello, Lillis. Thanks for being with us. Can you hear me, Lillis? Oh, Lillis's mic is off on Zoom. That's okay. We'll figure it out. In the meantime, we have Charlene with us. Charlene, do you have your mic on too?
Sure do.
Oh, fantastic. Lillis, are you with us yet? No, she isn't. Charlene is Charlene Craker, who works at the Steinbach Community Outreach. Tell us about the need in Steinbach.
So we're slowly over time seeing more and more homeless people coming to Steinbach. Right now, I'd say we have about 40 who are out there on the streets. They're sleeping on park benches, they're couch surfing, there's all kinds going on. And so there's always a need when they're out there in the evenings and it's cold and wet like it is today. They can then find, they need supplies and they need somewhere to go. And so when Lillis came to Outreach and said, I have an idea, what do you think? We thought it was fantastic.
Lillis is back. Hi, Lillis. Thanks for being with us. Oh, darn, I still can't hear you. There's got to be something. What was that? Was that you, Lillis? Technology, eh? It's fantastic that she can be in Steinbach and I can be in Winnipeg and we can see each other and we can broadcast the sound of it everywhere and the visual of it everywhere, but there just is no sound. We're going to keep talking about the fence then. Lillis, such a generous idea, comes to the Steinbach Community Outreach Center, and Charlene says, I've got this idea. Tell us about the reaction that you and your coworkers had.
We thought Lillis's idea was fantastic. I mean, to set something up and, I have a bit of space in the corner of my yard that faces a sidewalk. If people could just walk by and help themselves, what do you think about that? And we thought it was absolutely great. We love to see the community get involved. People have such creative ideas out there. And this is just one way, that people can address the need. And so with Lillis, we thought this was fantastic.
Well, it's just wonderful generosity and very creative. One of my thoughts, we see these little tiny libraries that people set up, and sometimes they put things in there. We really should detail what is hanging from Lillis's fence. What types of things does she have there?
So she's got a few hygiene supplies. There's things like toothbrushes and little mini toothpastes. There's socks. When you're out in the wet and the cold, often you need an extra pair of dry socks, right? And so there's socks hanging out there, maybe a pair of underwear or a t-shirt, something like that. There's all kinds of, there's some snacks too as well that they can help themselves. Maybe a little packet of Ritz crackers or something like that if you're getting hungry. It's just all kinds of, anything that a person who is struggling might need. Can take off the shelf.
And you can do it at all times of day because, for example, you offer similar help through the outreach, correct?
We do. We have a drop-in center that we run, and anybody who is homeless can come pop in. We act as a warming shelter and a cooling shelter. We've always got a pot of coffee on where they can have something hot to drink. We can heat up a meal for a person who hasn't eaten in a couple of days. We offer a free clothing closet, boots, jackets, that kind of thing. So whatever their needs are, we can help them with. And then we can also sit down and, talk about the possibility of housing and benefits and, getting you some money and getting you up on your feet, right? So,
but you also have limited hours. So
we do. We are only open during the days, unfortunately. Right now, we do not have the capacity to be open at night. So we're only open during the days. So for Lillis to have a fence out where somebody can go and take those items that they need in case they've missed us at the drop-in center is wonderful.
And Lillis Penner has joined us by the newfangled technology of a telephone. And I can hear you. Oh, Lillis, it's so lovely to hear your voice.
I have unmuted this thing, and I don't know what's going on. So I'm glad to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. Where did the idea come from?
We actually live in probably what's called the lower income section of Steinbach.
If you're hearing your echo, that's probably the radio on behind you or something. I wonder if that's it. Or maybe through your computer.
Hang on, let's see if I can mute this.
Well, in the meantime, let's Well, it's technology. What do you want? Just because we want to see your lovely face to go
Okay,
along with
let's
this
try
lovely
that.
story.
Is that better?
That is. So you,
Okay,
what would you
perfect.
see out your front window?
Well, we see the homeless people walking by. We actually got to know several of them. So they are walking by and they are literally just walking to stay warm, to keep busy, to keep moving. And like there's a little bit of a parkway right across from us, so they would sit. Sometimes they pitch a tent, have a nap. And there's just a lot of them. And where do they go? Where do they go when there's no outreach open, right? Community outreach is great, and they're able to allow them to have a nap during the day, pick up food, what they need, toiletries, all that stuff. But that's Monday to Friday, 9:30 to 3:30. And then after that, what happens? And especially during winter, the shelter is going to be opening shortly, so they'll have some place to go. But in the meantime, what do they do? And
Charlene also already mentioned that you have socks, for example. On a wet day like this, people get drenched. They actually can get trench foot. We've seen that happening with people walking around in very wet shoes and socks. The clothing that you put out is all in plastic bags, so it stays nice and dry.
That's correct. Everything that I'm putting out right now is in Ziploc bags, so everything can stay dry. I've put a mailbox out there that hopefully I've sealed properly so that it can't get wet either, so that if people need something, they can tell me what they need. So it's really important. Feet are huge. Feet are very important in the care of people. Like you don't need to get frostbite. You don't want to get wet, get sores, anything like that. So this way they can get fresh, clean socks. And soon they're not going to need it. It's going to be summer, so everybody's going to have their toes out and about. But in the meantime, where do you get a clean pair of underpants? Where do you get, how do you have a bath? There's not really a mission here that allows people to come in, clean up, get a meal, and stay overnight. Now, there will be, but it is only going to be working for, I think, 8 months out of the year, and then the rest of it, they have nothing. So,
and you're talking about the shelter that's being opened.
That's correct.
Later.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you don't have a bathtub attached to the fence. What you have are wipes, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So wipes, deodorant, sanitizers, lotions, soap. I have, some travel size shampoo and conditioner if they can manage to find somebody that they're couch surfing with or whatever, that they can use the amenities there as well.
Now, you mentioned the mailbox, and the mailbox says, "Tell me what you need," written on it. Why did you think that was important to do?
Well, because to be honest with you, I had learned a lot of stuff even from outreach as to what people use basic things for. I did not know that dental floss is also string. They use it to tie things together with. And to be honest with you, we had a gentleman before the fence went up come and knock on our door. We know him really well. And what I had was not something he needed. He doesn't have teeth, so toothpaste and toothbrush didn't work. He needed deodorant, which was great. He needed underwear, which was great. But I didn't even think about a disposable razor and shaving cream. Partly because I guess I'm a woman, and secondly because it's just something that we all take for granted. We go to the store and we buy it. So I'm sure there are things that they need on a daily basis, or maybe for bike maintenance or whatever it is they're doing, that they have the possessions that they do have, that they can let me know and I can hopefully source it.
We've only got a minute left. How long are you hoping to keep this going? It's a big job for one person, Lillis.
That's a big job. It is. I am hoping to keep this going as long as I possibly can. I have an amazing support system here in Steinbach. I was not expecting the spotlight or for this to go quite viral. It was a tiny little project that I hope to keep somewhat small on my property so that I can keep it going. But this has gone to the point where this may end up being something larger, and I don't know what that looks like. But for now, I want to keep this going as much as possible because this is not going away. More and more people are in need of things, and we just need to love our neighbors. I mean, to love God is to love people. So,
Lillis Penner, thank you so much for helping others and for your tenacity with joining us today, for keeping at it. Thank you, Lillis Penner.
Thanks so much.
And thank you, Charlene Kraker, who works for Steinbach Community Outreach. Keep up the good work, too. Two exceptional women with us today. After your 12:30 newscast, which is coming right up here on Radio Noon, we're going to talk about the Canadian Dental Care Plan. We've got somebody here to answer what questions you have, and we know there are lots of questions out there. The phone lines are open, 204-780-0893. 204-780-0893. Now, it's time for the news.
This is CBC News. At 12:30, we're at 11 degrees with rainy skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. The Winnipeg Jets are using hindsight to try and assess what went wrong. The Jets were booted from the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs by the Colorado Avalanche in 5 games. They only won the first game against Colorado. Captain Adam Lowry says penalties were a problem.
We came into Game 3 with a 2-1 lead, and we take 5 minor penalties at the start of the third. Our penalty kill was an Achilles heel for us all year, and you're really putting your team against or behind the 8 ball, kind of putting yourself in that position. So I think in those moments, learn to control your emotions.
Goalie Connor Hellebuck says he feels he played his best hockey during the playoffs, but he says he didn't see half the pucks that went into the net. Hellebuck says the team needs to do a better job of adjusting its play against other teams. A new report suggests Canada's greenhouse gas emissions rose in 2022 from the year before. But Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault says the data is encouraging.
This updated report shows significantly lower emissions by 44 million tons than our pre-pandemic levels. That is the equivalent of removing 13 million vehicles from our roads.
Guilbeault says levels are at their lowest in 25 years, not including the pandemic years. He says measures aimed at lowering Canada's emissions are working, but more still needs to be done. Oil sands production and transportation are the biggest contributors. The federal government has committed to cutting emissions by 40% below 2005 levels by 2030. And a mother in Shiloh, Manitoba, struggling to find support for her neurodiverse children, is petitioning the province for change. Ali Pumala moved from Ontario with her 3 children, who are all on the autism spectrum. She says it's been challenging to find childcare for her 3-year-old son, Carson, who is nonverbal and has global development delay.
I realize that Manitoba is one of the few provinces that don't actually have any legislation in regards to early childhood education and children with disabilities. And I was honestly a little shocked about that to find out that there was no actual legislation.
Pumal has created what she calls Carson's Bill, which would ensure all early education institutions have clear guidelines on how to accommodate children like Carson who require additional support. In a statement, a provincial spokesperson says Children's Disability Services uses a family-centered approach to evaluate respite care needs, adding a range of respite options are available. And for news anytime, head on over to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you so much, Matt Humphrey.
Back soon.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I talked over you again. Happens, right?
You can't even hear me anymore. Oh, now you can.
Yeah, I can.
Now you can.
Bye, Matt.
Bye now.
Riley Laychuk joins us now to talk about precipitation.
Precipitation and rain and everything like that. Yes, a much needed, Janet, soaking rain across southern Manitoba and even a little bit of snow into the northern part of the province. Right now, basically all of southern Manitoba into at least some showers, if not some steadier rain as we head through the noon hour. Some heavier pockets of rain north of the city of Winnipeg into the area area around the Lake Manitoba Narrows as well, and even into the Westman region. So even areas like Minnedosa, into the Brandon region, getting some heavier pockets of precipitation. Expect that to continue as we get through the afternoon hours today. We're expecting a pretty wet day across southern Manitoba. Into the evening hours tonight, a few flurries in far northern Manitoba, especially along the Hudson Bay coast as well. So areas like Churchill could pick up some light snow tonight. Brochet to Dooley Lake could get a few flurries through the overnight period as well. Here in the south, we see rain continuing as we get through the overnight period. A few showers into the morning, maybe a few flurries along the western edge of Manitoba. So Swan River, Roblin, down into the Russell region, could get a few snowflakes into the early morning tomorrow. Just because we'll see, especially in those higher elevations, temperatures dipping below the freezing mark again overnight into Friday morning. For the rest of us, we're looking at continued rain or at least some showers on and off as we head through the day tomorrow. In the amounts tomorrow of about 2 to 5 millimeters, tapering off and clearing as we get into the afternoon on Saturday. So looking at rainfall projections, taking us out to early morning on Saturday, I've got Winnipeg into that sort of 15 to 25 millimeter range. The forecast modeling right now giving Winnipeg 19 millimeters by the time we hit lunchtime Saturday. Some heavier pockets of higher amounts just to the west of the Red River Valley. So Morden, Winkler, Portage La Prairie, Neepawa could get up to about that 30 millimeter range. And if we're looking at snow in northern Manitoba, trace to a couple of centimeters. A lot of this will be melting on contact with temperatures warming up into the daytime, but could see a little dusting of snow first thing in the morning, especially as those temperatures drop. So right now, 10 degrees in both Winnipeg and Steinbach. Brandon's at 7-0 in Thompson right now. And through the rest of the day, really where we're at is kind of where we're at for the rest of the day, give or take a couple of degrees. I've got Winnipeg kind of at about 9-10 degrees for the rest of the afternoon here. Thompson at 8 for the afternoon. And temperatures warming up into the weekend, clearing 12 for Saturday, Janet, 19 for Sunday with a mainly sunny sky, and a few more showers move through late Monday into Tuesday.
Thanks very much, Riley.
No problem.
Riley's going to be back between 3 and 6 p.m. for Up to Speed Today, which I would guess our lovely Chloe Friesen is hosting, only because I know Faith Fundal, who normally hosts that show, was up doing information radio this morning. And then, of course, Riley will be back during the CBC Winnipeg newscast, which runs from 6 to 7, and which you can watch anytime on our CBC YouTube page, where you can also watch this program. And if you have been using YouTube to watch, you've seen me waving frantically and holding up signs for our next guest, because she's a friend, and I'm excited to see her, if only on Zoom. She's a friend of yours, too. You're going to recognize her voice, so stay tuned. The new Canadian Dental Care Plan officially kicked in yesterday on May 1st. Seniors 70 and older can now be covered, but some could be stuck waiting for care. People aged 65 to 69 can also now apply for the program online. But what dental care is covered, and what happens if your dentist isn't participating? Call now with your questions or comments. 204-780-0893. 780-0893. Now, toll free, the number is 1-800-268-5483. Marina von Stackelberg is our expert today. She's a senior reporter with CBC Ottawa who has been covering the rollout of this plan for months now and has been studying details of it. And she joins us now by Zoom. If you're a longtime CBC Manitoba fan, you'll remember she was based here. So we're grateful to have her sharing her time. Wonderful to see you, my friend. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, and it's so nice to be speaking to everybody in Manitoba today. I miss you guys.
Well, we miss you too. So again, great to know we can connect with you this way. Coverage under this plan is being expanded gradually. Did I have it right? Who exactly is covered now?
Yeah, and it is kind of convoluted and a little bit complicated, but basically the way to look at it is that eventually this will cover 1 in 4 Canadians, about 9 million people who don't have private health insurance. And the way the government is doing this is rolling it out gradually over the next year-ish. So the people that qualified starting yesterday are seniors. And then over the coming months, we'll have people with disabilities, children under the age of 18, and then eventually all eligible Canadians. And to be eligible, you basically can't have any sort of private insurance, so through your workplace, through your pension, anything like that, and you have to be in a certain income threshold. So if you make under 90K on your own or your household, you will be eligible in theory for the plan. And then it changes how much coverage you get depending on your salary. So if you make a little less, you might have more coverage. If you make a little more, the government might pay less towards your dental care.
We have Barry joining us right now, Marina. Hi, Barry. Thanks for calling Radio Noon.
Hi. I'm just wondering what I would qualify for. I'm only 66 now, and my only income is pension and guaranteed income supplement, so basically below poverty.
What do you think, Marina? At 66, what do you have to say to Barry?
Yeah, so 65 to 69 as of yesterday can qualify, or at least apply to see if they do qualify. And what the government had done was they had sent out letters to seniors over 70, but for seniors in that younger age group between 65 and 69, you can now apply online. That just went live yesterday morning. So based on your income, and as long as you don't have access to private insurance in any other way, you should in theory qualify. But to find out, it's pretty straightforward. You can go online to the government's website and then apply through there.
Qualify for what? Like I made the mistake of going to dental college and getting partials, and they just ruined the rest of my teeth. It's just ridiculous what they did. It lasted almost no time before I couldn't even wear them.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that's, I mean, the more complicated stuff like that, I think it's just going to be a case-by-case basis, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Marina, would you agree?
I need like 80% of my teeth removed, so I may as well just go for full dentures. I'm sure they're not going to cover that, are they?
So the program does cover quite a lot. So it covers kind of routine stuff, think like going for a cleaning or for x-rays or fillings, but it does cover stuff like dentures, partial dentures, crowns. Some of it has to go through pre-approval, and that's not going to be for another 6 months, but things like full dentures, I believe, are going to be covered right away. So again, it depends on how much is covered. And that's a big issue as well, is it's not necessarily going to be free, because the Canadian government will cover a certain amount, and then your dentist can charge you kind of the difference. But from the dental associations I've spoken to, and it kind of changes province by province, but it's around 80% coverage that the federal government would pay towards these procedures. So your best way to do it is to apply and then go to your dentist with your card, which will be sent to you, and then they should be able to tell you what you would have covered or not and when.
Right. So I guess basically you got to shop around for a dentist that's going to be reasonable as well, just like anything else. You got to get your best price.
Yeah, you've actually touched on one of the big kind of issues with this plan was getting oral health care providers to sign up. And I did a number of stories on that because initially, and still kind of right now, there is some reluctance. About 1 in 5 across the country have signed up to provide the program. There is a searchable database you can go to that's Sun Life, which is the insurance provider that the federal government has contracted. You can go on there and look up to see if your dentist is included or to find a dentist that is. And there is another kind of thing that the federal government has put in starting in July, which is even if your dentist hasn't signed up, they could still process a claim for you if they want to. But again, that process doesn't start for another 2 months.
There's so much here. And you've mentioned a couple of times, Marina, that, you have to go online to register, to apply. Where do you go? Do you know off the top of your head? Just Google the Canadian Dental Plan?
If you Google the Canadian Dental Care Plan eligibility or application, it'll pop up right away from the federal government. Our stories also link out to a lot of that as well. So the story that we put up yesterday, it's got a link right at the top. I think it's the second sentence. You can follow that link and it'll take you to the application for that 65 to 69 age group. And
same with that searchable database to find dentists in your area.
The searchable database is linked there as well.
What about, I know there's going to be somebody out there thinking like I'm 85 years old and I don't like computers. I'm not comfortable with them. I don't use them. What about folks who aren't online?
Yeah, that was something that the government said they really wanted to be attentive of. So they did actually, for 70 and up, they did this thing where they mailed out invitations, and then people could actually call in and then register that way. So I'm not sure if they're still doing that now that the online portal is open, but they did have a phone number that you could call. And again, I don't have it off the top of my head, but You could previously apply through the phone. And I believe that number is still active, but I don't have it in front of me.
And that's okay, Marina. You don't have to because Stanley might. Stanley's calling from Toulon. Thanks for being with us. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
You received one of these letters.
Yes.
Do you remember what it said?
It said that based on my income and age, I'm 100% covered, and I'll get a letter within the next 3 months. That was a couple months ago already. That telling me exactly when I'm going to be covered.
Okay.
And it's at 100% coverage, but whatever that means.
Well, well, it has to do with different people, different income levels.
Right.
So that's good news for you. How do you feel about it?
I feel good. I'm hoping that it materializes 100%. Like it seems. I hope that's true. Like I don't know.
You sound hesitant, like you're not quite sure.
Yeah, it sounds like there's no specific detail. Just we'll notify you, and within the next 3 months when you're eligible and 100% coverage. But what does that specifically mean? 100% coverage? Like does it mean full dentures for me?
Well, what is it that you would like to have done if you could?
Full dentures replaced.
Marina, what do you think?
Stanley, how old are you?
7. I turned 70 last July.
Okay. So yeah, you should qualify already. When they sent you the letter, there should have been a phone number that you could call to sign up. Do you remember it was like a phone number and a code, and then basically you could call that number to sign up. Do you know if you did that or if it had that information?
If it did have that information, I'm sure I would have done that. I don't recall, but yeah, so that's all I know.
Well, that sounds pretty good. If you called the phone number and the code, did you receive a second letter, or you're saying you should be getting?
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
yes.
So you must have registered, and it says you're 100% covered.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The 100% is a bit tricky, right? Because they'll cover 100% of what the federal government has decided they will pay, and they've actually come out with their own kind of fee guide. So I would say it's something to check with your dentist about, because obviously dentists also, they follow a fee guide, but they might not, some dentists might charge a little more or less. So it's worth checking. And I would say maybe try going through the online portal and seeing if you can apply through that way, because you can apply through that way now too.
Yeah.
Stanley, that's an interesting point. You said 100%, but there's different, the 100% they're referring to is just 100% of their fee. Anybody who gets dental insurance through work will know that sometimes you're covered for 80% or 10%. There's something you have to pay.
Right.
So what Marina's saying, I believe, is that there's likely going to be something you have to pay, but because of your income level, whatever the maximum is that the government will cover towards, say, new dentures, you're going to get the maximum amount that they'll cover.
Right.
Right? What kind of difference do you think this will make to you? Is this something you could have afforded to do to get new dentures without this coverage?
I actually could afford it, but I figure if it's free, why should I pay?
You pay your taxes, and that's what's covering this. So,
yeah.
Thank you so much, Stanley, for calling.
Okay, thank you.
Take good care. Roy just called in to give us the phone number. If there is a plan number from that letter, if you're one of the people that received one of these letters that said you could call. Now, you still need a code, though, correct? The letters also had a particular code as well as the phone number?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, as of the fact that they're now expanding eligibility, you might be able to call that number and just get more information. I just think that to sign up specifically that way, you needed that code, but that might now have changed now that it's expanded. So it's definitely worth trying to give it a ring and see if that can lead you to the information you need.
One of the things that we've been hearing about this is just how few dentists have so far signed up. You touched on that. Why is that? You talked to the Canadian Dental Association. What did it say?
Yeah, so the main kind of concern with oral healthcare providers is around what they say is the paperwork. So just, when you process an insurance claim, they're concerned that Ottawa is requiring too much in terms of having to process those claims. They were also concerned because to sign up, they had to sign a contract. And that's not something that they've previously really had to do with insurance providers or even through other public plans. If you think about provincial disability plans across the country, they're kind of a patchwork. There's the non-insurance health benefits for First Nation and Inuit who don't have insurance. So dentists were just quite kind of apprehensive about how the sign-up process went. The federal government did try and address that by allowing this other option that they can bill directly. But, it has become quite a contentious issue where the Canadian Dental Association says, obviously they support it. This is something that oral healthcare providers have pushed for, but they have concerns about the rollout of the plan. The health minister here in Ottawa says he's really hoping that as things get going and speaking with some dentists that are signed up for the program and are big advocates of it, they think that once things kind of get underway and people get used to it, it is, the biggest kind of change to our healthcare system since we brought in universal healthcare. So, the health minister says there's bound to be some bumps along the way. But yeah, like you mentioned, it's about 1 in 5 oral healthcare providers. I think the newest number they had for us yesterday was 7,000. So that includes dentists, but also denturists and independent hygienists. And so they're hoping that number is going to go up.
The number we want you to remember is 204-780-0893. 204-780-0893. Toll free, the number is 1-800-268-5483. 1-800-268-5483. What do you think about the rollout of this? I mean, it's a big deal. And as Marina just said, it's the biggest thing that's happened in terms of healthcare and rolling the programs out since universal healthcare came out many decades ago. But you must have comments about it. This is your tax dollars at worth. Marina, what do you think about the cost of this? What are the estimates that this program is going to cost Canadian taxpayers?
Yeah, so it's $13 billion over the next 5 years, and then they've allocated, I think it's about $4 billion per year after that. So this is significant. This is really, really significant spending. The argument that has been made for people who want kind of a national public plan for dental care is that there's a lot of costs when you get to the point when you haven't seen a dentist, right? So if you haven't seen a dentist, I actually saw a man yesterday. I went to go interview a dentist that was doing the program, and a man came in and he hadn't been to a dentist in 5 years. And he said to me, my gums bleed every morning and I couldn't go because I can't afford it. And I was there as the dentist was checking him out, and the dentist says, I'm expecting to see a lot of this in the next couple of weeks, because when you get to the point where you haven't had basic oral health care for so many years, some people it's like 10, 15, 20. We've heard of people having the same set of dentures for decades. That is like a longer term sort of cost on the healthcare system, billions of dollars, because then when someone gets to the point where they're teeth are so bad that they are in a hospital, or there's lots of what we call comorbidities, which is like something makes you sick because of something else. And so situations where it affects people's health, it can contribute to heart and lung issues, diabetes, it can complicate. So the argument is that the money is worth it, but it is a big chunk of money. $13 billion is not nothing. And so that is definitely something to watch over the years as this program rolls out.
Bill is joining us now. Thanks for calling, Bill. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
What do you think about this program?
Well, so far so good. I got the mail from the Dental Association, and I filled it out. I phoned them up. I gave them the information they required, and 3 weeks or a month or 2 months later, I received my card in the mail and saying it's all official. It starts May 1st. And there is no dentists in Winnipeg that I have found that are on the program. So it's absolutely no good to me until there's dentists that represent it.
Now, there is that searchable website, correct? Have you tried that? There's a searchable...
Yes, I've gone to the website. I don't have a computer. I use my iPhone. And when you go to the site that says click on for... a list of dentists and where they are, it gives you something else. You think it would just give you a list of dentists and then you could find the one closest to you. But no, it doesn't do that. It's just all over the place. So I'm completely lost.
Yeah, it might be you kind of have to search what kind of provider you want, a dentist, and then the city. But I haven't tried it on a phone, to be honest. So,
Yeah, I've tried all that. I'm not computer illiterate, but it just doesn't work. At least with my iPhone, anyway, it doesn't work. The site is set up so poorly that it doesn't give you the information you need. It goes on to something else and something else.
Bill, thank you so much for calling. I think what we need to do is get you hooked up with, somebody who's got a laptop you can use, and try it there. But really, we also need to get more and more of dentists, signing on to this program, because it is a trick to find somebody. And if you trust your doctor, your dentist, what do you think, Marina? You're hopeful that, or I should say, the Dental Association is hopeful. The government is hopeful, and that more and more dentists find this works, or that they smooth out the quirks and get it working so it's easier for people to find a dentist.
Yeah, that story that we've just heard is quite common. When we do stories, we get people emailing us and sending us messages, but I've never seen so much feedback on any story I've done. We've literally been contacted by hundreds and hundreds of seniors trying to get answers to these questions. And I've interviewed a lot of seniors who are upset because their dentist doesn't want to participate. They've been going to the same dentist for decades, and now they have to decide, okay, well, do I go to a different dentist? Do I just keep paying out of pocket? And especially if you're in a rural and remote community, if you only have a few dentists to choose from, I spoke to one woman in Nova Scotia, and she was out in Yarmouth, and she was worried that she's going to have to go to Halifax to get her teeth cleaned. So yeah, the dental associations, like I said, are apprehensive. They want more information. The federal government is hoping that more dental providers sign on. But yeah, like I said, and like that last caller's situation is that there are people who are trying to find a dentist and struggling to find someone who will take them.
Marina von Stackelberg, what haven't we talked about? Is there any question or concern, message you want Canadians to have from the research into this?
I think it's really great to engage with programs and to ask questions about it and to be critical of it and just try and see, advocate for yourself in these situations, right? A lot of things with healthcare, I cover a lot of healthcare stories here in Ottawa that affect Canadians, and a lot of it is to do with advocating for yourself. So, I've heard from seniors who say, well, I got a card, or, I got the letter, but I wasn't sure. I guess just keep pushing to make sure that if this is something that you want to be part of, that you can get the information that you need and be part of it.
And also maybe push your dentist if there's someone you really love or someone who's close to you, because they do now have they can actually now treat you and get paid, correct? Even without signing up.
Not till July.
Not till July, okay.
So I'll be watching to see how that kind of pans out. So right now, for the next 2 months, you have to go to an oral healthcare provider that is registered, and then starting in July, it's up to the dental care providers can choose whether or not they want to be part of this program. It is voluntary. They are not forced to do it. So I would say, again, with advocating for yourself, is advocate to your dentist if you are part of this plan, if they are registering, to make sure that you understand if you qualify, how much will be covered, so you're not surprised when you go after being in the dentist chair to the checkout area.
Marina von Stackelberg is a senior reporter with CBC Ottawa and a good friend of CBC Manitoba because she reported for us for many years. Thank you for sharing with us what you've learned. Take good care.
Thanks so much. You too.
Well, brings us to the end of another Radio Noon. We get comments from viewers and listeners all the time after our programs end. So remember, you can always leave us your comments at 204-788-3797. What questions do you need us to ask? What call-in ideas do you think we should explore? We always love hearing from you, and you can also email radio893@cbc.ca. I want to thank Travis Peterson for making it possible for us to be seen on YouTube. I want to thank Wendy Parker for everything she does for the program and the unit. And thank you, Daniel Friesen, for making sure that people can hear us and playing that beautiful music. Thanks to Nellie Gonzalez and Leif Larson for their leadership. Thank you for listening. You're the most important part of this equation. This is CBC Radio 1, and up next today, Quirks and Quarks. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we'll chat with you tomorrow.